Presented by
SBI Mutual Fund, a partner for life.
Chemistry That Matters. Sabic. Co-powered by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Driven by Kia Sonet. Wild by design.
Two questions have dominated conversations this year. When will the pandemic end? And where did the virus come from? The world has little doubts about the address. It's Wuhan in China. What is not settled is the specific question of origin. Was it a man-made virus developed in a laboratory? There have been claims and counterclaims. Earlier this week, we told you about a Chinese virologist who had fled to the US. She made some explosive claims. She said the virus was made in a government-owned Chinese lab. Now, Twitter has suspended her account and triggered a major debate on selective censorship. Disagreement with the claim is one thing, denial of a platform quite another. Will Twitter use the same yardsticks to silence Chinese diplomats who routinely post fake news? Is this the politics of big tech? What has Twitter said in its defense? Tonight, we'll bring you all sides of the story because it's a very important story with some very powerful players who have the wherewithal to silence uncomfortable voices. Also on the show tonight, onion crisis in Bangladesh after India bans exports. Protests and politics begin. Who is to blame? We bring you a Gravitas ground report from Dhaka. The race for Venus begins after scientists say there are possible signs of life. Moscow says Venus is a Russian planet. NASA says it may send 2 missions soon. Barbados has finally decided to remove the British Queen as the head of state. The country wants to leave its colonial past behind. And North Koreans must follow a new diktat. Hold a daily 90-minute class for preschoolers on Kim Jong-un. We begin as always with Gravitas Global Headlines.
India's Ministry of External Affairs has raised its deep concern with the Chinese envoy to India and the Chinese Foreign Ministry over a Chinese firm collecting data on prominent Indians. The Indian government has formed an expert panel under the National Cybersecurity Coordinator to examine the matter within 30 days. The Chinese Foreign Ministry claims Shenzhen Zhenhua is a private company which has no connection to the government in Beijing. Disrespect to the army will be a punishable offence in Pakistan after a new legislation outlaws hatred and disrespectful behaviour towards the country's armed forces. The new bill includes a 2-year jail term for disrespecting the forces. Critics claim this is another sign that the Imran Khan government is simply doing the Pakistan army's bidding. Team of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny claims that he was poisoned in his hotel room and not at the airport as first thought. Navalny's team says the nerve agent Novichok was detected on an empty water bottle from his hotel room in the city of Tomsk. A video posted on Navalny's Instagram account showed members of his team searching the room he had just left in the Xander Hotel on the 20th of August, an hour after they learned that he had fallen sick. Beijing has defended its actions and has outlined guarantees for the Uyghur Muslim community in the Xinjiang region. The newly issued white paper justifies the so-called re-education of Uyghurs. China claims it is protecting citizens' right to work and is abiding by international labor and human rights standards. Meanwhile, nearly 24 activist groups have applied to the UN to act against the genocide of minorities in Xinjiang. Maria Kolesnikova, the Belarusian opposition figure who was detained last week, has been charged with incitement to undermine national security. Belarusian security forces say Kolesnikova's actions were aimed at undermining national security using the media and the internet. The opposition leader is currently in jail after refusing to be expelled to Ukraine. A US House panel investigation concludes that the two Boeing 737 MAX crashes that killed all 346 passengers and crew aboard were the horrific culmination of failures by the plane maker and the US Federal Aviation Administration. The report said Boeing made faulty design and performance assumptions, especially regarding a key safety system called MCAS, which was linked to both the Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines crashes. Sri Lanka is seeking compensation of nearly $1.9 million from owners of the supertanker MT New Diamond. Sri Lankan authorities have sought funds as compensation for putting out the fire that broke out in its engine room. Greece-based Porto Imperial Shipping Inc. is the registered owner of the 20-year-old Panama-flagged crude carrier. 29 police officers have been suspended in Germany for sharing pictures of Adolf Hitler and doctored depictions of refugees in gas chambers on their mobile phones. Some of these police officers could be dismissed from the force for disseminating Nazi propaganda and hate speech. Others are accused of failing to report their colleagues. Brazilian footballer Neymar has been banned for 2 games after being shown a red card in PSG's defeat to Marseille over the weekend. The high-profile contest was marred by an all-out brawl involving players from both teams, all 5 of whom have been handed additional sanctions. Neymar punched Alvaro Gonzalez in the back of the head and later accused him of making a racist comment. Those allegations will now be investigated by the governing body of the French league LFP. World champions England's 5-year unbeaten streak in one-day series at home came to an end after Australia clinched a dramatic victory in the 3rd ODI at Old Trafford. The hosts lost 2 wickets off the first 2 balls after opting to bat first, but a century from Johnny Bairstow took them to a formidable total of 302 for 7. Australia's chase looked all but over when they slid to 73 for 5 inside 18 overs, but Glenn Maxwell and Alex Carey both struck stunning centuries to put the visitors back in the hunt. Australia still needed 10 runs off the final over, but 2 boundaries from Mitchell Starc sealed a thrilling series win with 2 balls to spare.
Our cover story tonight is about a suspended Twitter account. Let me show you what it looks like. No display image, no tweets, just 2 words in bold. Account suspended. Why is this news? Because this account belongs to Dr. Li Mengyan, a Chinese virologist who has fled China. Dr. Li Mengyan is the same scientist who said that the Wuhan virus was made in a laboratory. We told you about her on Monday. Dr. Li has leveled some very big charges. She claims that the virus was created in a government-controlled lab in Wuhan, a Chinese government-controlled lab. She also says that there was a cover-up and that she was told to not speak about it. Her story has been reported the world over. Dr. Li says she has proof of China's guilt. But Twitter has decided that she's the one who's guilty of spreading fake news. They've suspended her account. What is the proof that Dr. Li has? Her scientific report on the origins of the Wuhan virus. The title could not have been more obvious. It says, and I'm quoting, "Sophisticated laboratory modification rather than natural evolution. The report says the Wuhan virus, and I'm quoting again, shows biological characteristics that are inconsistent with the naturally occurring zoonotic virus. In other words, she says this virus is not natural. It comes from a lab. Her report has 3 other authors. They all seem to agree. But there are many researchers who don't agree, who question this report. They call it a preprint. What's a preprint? It's a report which has not been peer-reviewed. Now, here's something you should know. A peer review is like a stamp of approval for any scientific study or claim. When a scientific paper passes the peer review test, it means that independent scientists have read it and they have concluded that the study is valid. But this report, Dr. Lee's report, is not peer-reviewed. Apparently, the scientific community has rejected it. Let me take you through some of those responses. 6 leading experts in evolutionary biology have studied Dr. Lee's paper. They say, and I'm quoting, it cannot be given any credibility in its present form. Why? They give 2 specific reasons. 1, the paper offers no new information than what's already in the public domain. And 2, the arguments made in the paper are not backed by any scientific data that can be verified. In separate statements to the UK's Science Media Centre, 4 more scientists have questioned Dr. Lee's paper. This list includes the author of a previous study on the Wuhan virus, a study that said the virus could have come from bats. These experts say Dr. Lee's paper, and again I'm quoting, is highly speculative and does not provide any robust evidence to prove claims of artificial manipulation. It's not just about science, though. There's politics too. Some say there's a political hand behind Dr. Lee's claims and that this paper has been published by 2 non-profit groups set up by Steve Bannon, who used to be Donald Trump's strategist. What does all of this mean? Is Dr. Lee spreading fake news? Before you decide, remember this. The lab origin claims are as old as the Wuhan virus. The scientific community is still trying to solve the mystery of the origin of this virus. China has not given independent investigators, even WHO teams, any access to Wuhan or its lab. So here's what we say. It is easy to target a doctor who has fled her country and taken on a mighty government. Dr. Lee is not the first person who has spoken about a Chinese cover-up or a lab link. Will Twitter take down all such accounts? If this is fake news, will Twitter suspend all accounts which spread fake news? In which case, I would like to draw their attention to 5 posts which have fake news. 5 accounts. The posts were subsequently proven fake. Let me start with one that was posted in the month of March by Hua Chunying, a spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She claims that the Chinese national anthem was played in Rome and that Italians chanted Grazie China, meaning thank you China. This is a fake video. Fact checkers have shown how the footage was dubbed with the Chinese national anthem. Last we checked, this post has not been taken down, not even labeled. This account has not been suspended. The second one is from Zhao Lijian, the Chinese wolf warrior diplomat, who said that the Wuhan virus came from American soldiers. This post is still on Twitter with a label that says, "Get the facts about COVID-19." Well, how about labeling it as fake news? The third post on our list, again Zhao Lijian's profile, again the same charge, blame America for the virus. Again, Twitter put a blue label on the tweet, but no suspension of the account. Chinese diplomats are using this platform to spread lies, and Zhao Lijian is a serial offender. In the month of February, he had shared a video of a plane with relief supplies. He claimed that Australian Chinese were sending these boxes to Guangzhou from Melbourne. It was fake news. We come back to Hua Chunying, defending China over Xinjiang, where Uyghur Muslims are being targeted. She says what US officials say about Xinjiang is the lie of the century. And to back that statement, she shared a story full of unverified theories. Fact checkers have called out China, but Twitter has not. I've given you only 5 examples. There are many more. And this is not whataboutery. This is an attempt to show you a contrast. Chinese diplomats spread lies, and all Twitter does is label them as state-affiliated. A Chinese whistleblower makes a charge and Twitter suspends her account. I'm not a scientist. I'm not qualified to defend Dr. Lee's study. It must go through the scrutiny of the scientific community, but she should not be denied a platform to share her story. Twitter anyway is on a sticky wicket, and it's going after easy targets. A study by MIT revealed that fake news travels 6 times faster on Twitter than the truth. The research says that falsehoods are 70% more likely to be retweeted. The social media giant is under fire, so it started labeling government accounts. It hid tweets posted by US President Donald Trump. It started tagging state media, starting with Chinese state media, to be fair. But is the targeting of a Chinese whistleblower a political balancing act? We asked these questions to Twitter through an email. It has not responded yet. So Chinese whistleblowers are being suspended on social media, and Chinese citizens, we can tell you, are being blocked in courts of law. This story is from Wuhan, the place where the pandemic began. The citizens of Wuhan, the relatives of the victims of the Chinese state, want to take their government to court, but they cannot because it's China. We've reported this story before, how China is blocking COVID lawsuits. Tonight we'll bring you voices of these victims. And note these names, they will be in the news soon. Zhong Hangneng and Zhang Hai. These 2 Chinese citizens have dared to take on the Communist Party. Zhong lives in Wuhan. She lost her son to the Wuhan virus in February. The Chinese media will not tell you her story. They only show images of pool parties and school reopenings. But Zhong's story reveals the truth about Wuhan. She blames the local government for the death of her son. Along with other bereaved relatives, she filed a lawsuit. The charges against the officials were very clear: failing to alert the public, bungling the response, and allowing the situation to go out of control. But the lawsuits were abruptly rejected. She will not get back her son. She may not even get justice. But court or no court, in Zhong's eyes, the Chinese state is guilty.
I'm always thinking that he suffered a lot. Because of the virus, family couldn't accompany him. He must have been so scared, so unhappy, with no family around. I can't imagine how sad he was. Did he call out, "Mother, Father"? I don't know. We don't know. His death made us lose everything. We are shattered. We shall never be happy again.
It seems like another cover-up is underway in Wuhan. The Communist Party is trying to hide public anger. Reports say victims are not being allowed to file lawsuits. Others are facing pressure to not file a case. Lawyers are being warned against helping the victims. Zhang Hai is one of them. He lost his father to this virus. Zhang says that at least 5 lawsuits were filed in the Wuhan Intermediate Court. The plaintiffs wanted $295,000 in damages with a public apology. Do you know what happened? The lawsuits were rejected. And I must tell you about the reason given. They were rejected over quote-unquote unspecified procedural grounds. What does that even mean? Zhang says there are many more who want to sue the Chinese state.
Because my father was killed by them, and I am still living in the world. When it comes to my father is my motivation. Even if there is no result, at least I tried. I believe then I can give my father an explanation. Because of the coronavirus, many people in Wuhan lost their precious lives. The authorities know if they allow my lawsuit, there will be countless lawsuits from other families waiting for them.
We have another story that China is trying to hide. First, it tried to hide the virus by punishing whistleblowers like Dr. Li Wenliang, the Wuhan doctor who first alerted the state. He was harassed by the police and then he died. Now the government is trying to hide public anger by punishing the victims, using threats and intimidation. The survivors want answers, but China is silencing them because any form of dissent poses a direct challenge to the dominance of the Communist Party. Victims like Zhang have now started a public campaign. They want accountability from the Chinese state. He says he intends to appeal all the way to China's top court, the Supreme People's Court. And it's ironic how everything in China is of the people. People's Republic, People's Court, People's Liberation Army. But the people must suffer in silence and die in silence. Those who seek justice are punished. So we'll tell you about an island that refuses to suffer at the hands of China. Taiwan is preparing itself to thwart Chinese aggression. Arming it is the United States. After some high-profile visits, America is selling more weapons to Taiwan. Deals worth $7 billion are set to be on the cards. Beijing, of course, is not happy about any of this. Our next report tells you more.
5, 4, 3.
Taiwan's military is about to get a major weapons upgrade. Reports say the United States is gearing up to sell weapons worth $7 billion to Taiwan. What is Taiwan buying for so much money? Well, up to 7 major weapon systems, including mines, cruise missiles and drones. It won't be a first. The United States has been selling weapons to Taiwan since the 1970s. But this will be among the biggest. It's rare to pursue 7 major deals at once. Usually the United States likes to space out its weapon deliveries to the island to avoid Beijing's wrath. But this time it may be looking to make a point. The US-China ties have taken a hit, and weaponizing Taiwan makes sense. A senior official from the United States arrived in Taipei today. Beijing didn't fail to slam America's moves.
China firmly opposes any form of official exchanges between the US and Taiwan. This position is consistent and clear. The US insists on arranging the Under-Secretary of State's visit to Taiwan, which seriously violates the One China principle and the provisions of 3 Sino-US joint communiques, bolsters the separatist forces of Taiwan independence, and undermines China-US relations and peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. China firmly opposes this and has lodged solemn complaints with the US.
Despite China's aggression, the momentum is with Taiwan. Its President Tsai Ing-wen has called for a global coalition against China. For global powers, it's convenient timing. For Taiwan, it's critical. The Chinese military has stepped up activities near the island. Recently, the PLA conducted large-scale air and naval drills off the southwest coast of Taiwan. Taipei said the drills are intimidation tactics to force Taiwan to accept Chinese rule. Almost a week back, the Taiwanese president sent a strong message by visiting troops on the front.
I have seen your hard work. Because of your protection, the skies of Taiwan are staying safe and people in Taiwan can have a stable and happy life. I want to encourage everyone by saying that we will never give up any inch of our land and we will firmly protect democracy and freedoms.
Taiwan is responding to China's muscle flexing with words and weapon upgrades. It has hiked the defense budget by 10% this year. Taiwan's military spending is now more than 2% of its GDP. Armed with American weapons and resolute leadership, Taipei looks ready to take on China. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Onions are a staple in South Asian countries. It is hard to find a kitchen that does not have a stock of onions. But as festival season approaches in Bangladesh, onion prices have hit the sky. They are being sold for as much as 120 takas, that is $1.41 a kilo. What triggered this price rise? Bangladeshi leaders say the reason, the problem, is because India has banned onion exports. When we spoke to the people on the ground, they had a different story to tell. Here's a Gravitas ground report from Dhaka.
We are facing some issues because of the ban on onion exports from India. I don't know why you banned exports of onion. It would have been better if you had alerted us in advance so that we could have sourced onions from some other countries. You banned it suddenly and it became a problem for us.
October 2019. Desperate times call for desperate measures. When India banned the export of onions last September, Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina lamented the ban in Hindi. This was during her trip to India. In the very same breath, Hasina told the world how she had instructed her cook to avoid using onions. Another Hilsa season and onion prices have once again touched the sky in Bangladesh. Dhaka is pointing the finger at India's onion ban. Just for context, India banned onion exports on the 14th of this month. The reasons were various and many. Spike in wholesale prices, excessive rain and floods, and rise in international onion demand. Onions are a staple in India, and the Narendra Modi government could not afford to risk a price jump. So the export of this bulb was banned. Now take a look at what's happening across the border. Protest and politics. Onions are being sold for up to 120 taka or $1.41 a kilo, as opposed to 30 taka or $0.35 a kilo earlier this month. Bangladeshi leaders blame India for this misery. When we reached out to people on the ground, they told us a different story.
Farmers are not taking out onions from their houses.
It's an artificial crisis created by a group.
About 300.5 tons of onions are coming to this market every day. Not even 50 tons are coming in the last 2 days.
We also found some very interesting data. Do you know how much onion Bangladesh consumes in a year? 25 lakh tons. What about the amount of onion it produces in a year? 25.57 lakh tons. The supply is more than the demand. Then why should there be a crisis? According to Bangladesh's Department of Agricultural Extension, 25% of the country's onion production gets damaged every year. It is a perishable product. What about warehouses? Questions aside, the fact is, every year Bangladesh imports around 350,000 tons of onions from India. But India's onion ban is slowly becoming an annual affair. Could Bangladesh have prepared better this monsoon?
Although there are still stocks of onion in the warehouse, the retail market has suddenly run out of onions. Most people think this is an artificial crisis. Some are blaming government's lack of advanced preparation. In such a situation, Bangladesh government is looking for new market for onion import.
Is this an artificial crisis? Is this political? As Bangladesh awaits onion imports from Turkey and Egypt, it has requested India to rethink the ban. From Dhaka, Lakmina Jasmine Soma for WION World is One.
In the last 4 days or so, the focus of space exploration has suddenly shifted from Mars to Venus. The trigger was one research. It found that there could be life on Venus. No, we're not talking aliens. We are talking about microbes and microorganisms. You see, scientists think that Venus's atmosphere, or the Venusian atmosphere, has phosphine. What is phosphine and why is it important? Phosphine is produced by microbes, living things. At least on Earth it is. So if phosphine is found on Venus, that would mean there's life on Venus, at least the possibility of life. There is no doubt the finding is path-breaking. And if life is indeed found on this neighbor planet, then it could be among the biggest space feats of our generation. But before the world could digest this information, the story took a rather bizarre turn. One country has claimed ownership of this planet, the planet Venus. And for once, it's not China. It's too busy claiming small islands in the neighborhood. The country here is Russia. The Kremlin is calling Venus a Russian planet. On what basis, you could ask? Did Russia carry out the research that discovered phosphine on Venus? No, it did not. That study was conducted by British and American scientists. And Russian space agency Roscosmos pretty much dismissed that study. Its executive director for scientific and advanced programs, Alexander Bloshenko, said, and I quote, "Proof of life can only be obtained through contact exploration." Fair enough. So let's continue to maintain that Venus is inhospitable. Why then is Russia so interested in the planet, and why does it want ownership? Well, the Kremlin has not bothered to explain. But here is what the Russian Space Agency has put on its website, the history of Venus missions. Read the second paragraph. It says, the USSR was the only country to conduct regular exploration of Venus using on-planet stations. The first ever soft landing on another planet's surface was performed by Moscow in 1970 by the Venera 7. Roscosmos claims, and I quote again, several orbital missions and landings provided detailed data on the Veneran climate, soil, and atmosphere condition. The Soviet Venera 13 spacecraft still holds the record as the longest active spacecraft on Venus, remaining operational for 127 minutes. Well, Russia's claims are not fictional, but it misses out an important fact. Russia was not the only country to send Venus missions. NASA's Mariner 2 and Pioneer spacecraft also made their way to the Venusian atmosphere. This was in 1962 and then 1978. If the Soviet Venera 9 took the first pictures of Venus in 1975, then in 1990, a NASA spacecraft found that Venus's atmosphere was largely made of volcanic lava flow. Russia concluded its Venus mission in 1985, but Europe's Venus Express and Japan's Akatsuki have continued their Venus probe. So this first land, first claim basis does not quite apply here. We are neither living in the times of Christopher Columbus, nor is this the Cold War era. So if we were to go by Russia's land grab logic, then it might as well stake claim on the whole of space, starting with the moon, Mars. Wasn't it the Soviet Union that first landed on these surfaces as well? It's not surprising that Russia's Venus claim has been reduced to a joke. Other countries are working on sending their missions. NASA has shortlisted Da Vinci Plus and Veritas for a trip to Venus. India is already working on Chandrayaan-1 to analyze the chemistry of Venus by orbiting around the planet. Russia has included a Venus mission in its space exploration program from 2021 to 2030. This is in addition to a joint mission with the US, which is called the Venera D. So just one question. Does Russia plan to carry its flag to hoist on Venus? And from what I've read, the surface temperature of Venus can touch 471 degrees Celsius. It's hot enough to melt lead, just in case. And now it's time for a very special story, the story of Barbados. Congratulations are in order because it is turning into a republic. This Caribbean island is making history. It has decided to remove Queen Elizabeth II as its head of state. Let me guess, most of you must be thinking, isn't Barbados independent? Yes, it is. The country gained independence in 1966 after 341 years of British rule. But like several other British colonies, Barbados decided to retain the British monarch as its head of state. Meaning, Queen Elizabeth II remains the constitutional monarch of this country. Why? Because it was supposed to be a strategic move. The idea was to maintain close links with the UK. But over the years, it became a symbol of imperialism and racism. Next year, Barbados will celebrate its 55th Independence Day, and the island is looking to usher in this day as a republic.
Having attained independence over half a century ago, our country can be in no doubt about its capacity for self-governance. The time has come to fully leave our colonial past behind.
Sandra Mason is the Governor General of Barbados. What she was reading out was a throne speech, one that was written by the government and is aimed at outlining government policies and programs ahead of the new session of Parliament. What her speech made quite clear was that Barbados is looking at being a sovereign state and breaking away from the colonial shackles. Well done, we say. High time it did. What did the Buckingham Palace have to say about this announcement? Well, reports quoted sources from the palace as saying that the move was not out of the blue. It's not like the Queen could have challenged her removal. Let me tell you a little more about Barbados. Like I mentioned, the island is in the Caribbean. It's one of the region's most prosperous countries. Its GDP is around $5.21 billion US dollars, population a little over 300,000. Barbados was initially heavily dependent on sugar exports, but over the years the economy has diversified. There's tourism and finance as well. By the way, Barbados is not the first country to drop the Queen as the head of state. Guyana did it in 1970, Trinidad and Tobago 1976, Dominica 1978, Mauritius 1992. It is 2020 and Barbados is joining the club. What inspired it? Experts say it may have something to do with the Black Lives Matter movement and the worldwide anti-racism protests. The Governor General's speech did seem to reflect that as well.
Barbadians want a Barbadian head of state. This is the ultimate statement of confidence in who we are and what we are capable of achieving.
The mood is in line with uprooting a slave trader statue or realizing that there is nothing to celebrate in one's colonial past. Sometimes history can set wrong examples, and we must know when to break free of its shackles. The question is, will Barbados' decision be matched by others? Well, Jamaica says it may do the same. What about the other 13? That's right. There are 13 countries where Queen Elizabeth II remains the head of state. Antigua and Barbuda, Australia, the Bahamas, Belize, Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, Solomon Islands, and Tuvalu. Well, we say these countries, too, should follow Barbados' lead. As for the announcement from the Caribbean country, the pill may be too hard for the Great Britain to swallow, especially if it realizes that the move is likely to raise uncomfortable questions about the relevance of the British royal family or the Commonwealth, for that matter. We'll discuss it some other time. For the moment, let's tell you a little more about Kim Jong-un. Did you know that he rode a yacht when he was just 5 years old? That he was a voracious reader as a toddler? These are some of the bizarre or interesting, whichever way you see it, stories being taught to preschool children in North Korea. Under Pyongyang's new school curriculum, kids as young as 5 and 6 will have to study the life of their supreme leader for 90 minutes, 90, every day. The aim is to instill absolute loyalty in these children towards their leadership. Is Kim Jong-un the only world leader to do so? Watch this report first, and then we'll discuss.
Coloured costumes, bright smiles, and high spirits. At first sight, this may seem like a joyful kindergarten performance, but it's not. These are the children of North Korea reciting lyrics of loyalty, professing their love for their supreme leader, a leader who treats education as an ideological tool. According to a new report, preschool children in North Korea will now have to spend 90 minutes a day learning about Kim Jong-un. This diktat is part of Pyongyang's greatness education policy. It is aimed at cultivating loyalty and trust towards the Kim family. This revision in school curriculum was brought about by Kim Jong-un's own sister, Kim Yo-jong. The updated curriculum includes some bizarre and far-fetched stories from the Supreme Leader's childhood. It tells preschoolers that Kim Jong-un rode a yacht, read voraciously, and did target practice when he was just 5 years old. This sort of political indoctrination is set to permeate school curriculums across North Korea. The aim is to brainwash children at an early stage so that they grow up with absolute loyalty towards the North Korean leadership and its divine bloodline. But what good is such propaganda when 1 in 5 North Korean children suffers from malnutrition? When the infant mortality rate stands at 33% and the national rate of stunting over 19%. The children of North Korea are in need of nutrition, proper health care, and good education. But they have become subjects of state propaganda. Their thoughts restricted, their aspirations undiscovered. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And we're not done with the story yet. Kim Jong-un is not the only world leader to have school textbooks written about him in accordance with his ideas. There have been several others like him in different parts of the world, like Muammar Gaddafi. He ruled Libya for 4 long decades. Under his rule, Gaddafi used his powers to centralize the education system in his country. The curriculum in every single school was prepared in accordance with Gaddafi's teachings and views. He made lessons about his life mandatory. He got his portraits installed on classroom walls. Muammar Gaddafi is now dead. His legacy reduced to small photographs in history books. Then we have Saddam Hussein. He made children write paragraphs about his party's rise. He made them refer to him as beloved Saddam. School textbooks were written in a way that they suited his idea of the world. Geography was taught with no trace of Israel. English textbooks had stories about Zionist terror. Science lessons would include Saddam Hussein's pronouncements about the laws of nature. Nothing escaped his influence. Even mathematics had its political side. Students learned arithmetic by adding 4 to 28 because April 28 was Saddam Hussein's birthday. And then, how can we leave out China? In 2017, the Chinese regime made Xi Jinping's thought a compulsory school topic. They've had Mao before him, and now it's Xi. The government trained teachers to incorporate the president's ideology in class curriculum. Students were made to analyze communist theory. They still are. They learn the guiding principles of Chinese leaders like Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, Hu Jintao and others. The indoctrination begins early, usually the 3rd or the 4th grade. It strengthens the image of both Xi Jinping and the Communist Party of China. And now we have Kim. Different men, same story. Insecure dictators hoping to brainwash another generation. Let's see what's happening in the US. They're gearing up for the election 46 days away from the voting day. With each passing day, we have a new controversy and new promises from both sides to win public sentiment. As of the 17th of September, the promise is to deliver a Wuhan virus vaccine as soon as possible. These vaccines have taken center stage in the race to the White House. They have turned into a political issue. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are sparring over a potential vaccine. But none of them has much to offer. I'll start with the president. He has unveiled the largest, fastest and most advanced vaccine distribution plan in American history. These are his words. Under his plan, the Trump administration is promising to swiftly deliver COVID-19 vaccines to all Americans free of cost. By when? Trump says, in a matter of weeks.
We're on track to deliver and distribute the vaccine in a very, very safe and effective manner. We think we can start sometime in October. So as soon as it is announced, we'll be able to start. That'll be from mid-October on. Maybe a little bit later than that, but we'll be all set.
From mid-October, says the U.S. president, the confidence is admirable. Only if American health experts could share the same. Just hours before Donald Trump unveiled his plan, the director of U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Robert Redfield, testified before a U.S. Congress panel. He said that a vaccine will not be available to the American public before the second and third quarter of 2021. Listen to this.
I think there will be vaccine that initially be available sometime between November and December, but very limited supply and will have to be prioritized. If you're asking me when is it going to be generally available to the American public so we can begin to take advantage of vaccine to get back to our regular life, I think we're probably looking at late second quarter, third quarter, 2021.
So who should you believe? The Commander-in-Chief or America's top health expert? Well, we would have given you an answer backed by facts, but Donald Trump saved us the effort. Listen to him again.
Well, I think he made a mistake when he said that. It's just incorrect information. And I called him, and he didn't tell me that. And I think he got the message, maybe confused. Maybe it was stated incorrect. But I don't think he means that. I don't think when he said it, I believe he was confused. I'm just telling you, we're ready to go as soon as the vaccine happens. No, he's contradicting himself. I think he misunderstood the questions.
Well, he was testifying on.
You know what I think? I think he misunderstood.
Sometimes I want his confidence. He made a mistake. He was confused. He didn't mean that. He misunderstood. We're ready to go. To be honest, we can't really say if Trump is speaking the truth, but whatever it is, we just hope the vaccine he's promising to deliver by next month is not that disinfectant which he once promoted as a remedy for the Wuhan virus. Then we have Joe Biden. He has a lot of complaints against the president. He says he's fed up with the president's inaction. Biden wants Trump to take responsibility and come up with a real plan to combat this virus. Listen to him.
All President had to offer last night, President Trump, was the same weak and feckless inaction, the same lies and empty promises that we've seen from the very beginning. He still won't accept any responsibility. He still won't offer a plan. And last night, he repeated what he said so many times before, that even if he continues to offer only failing indifference, someday the virus is going to go away by a miracle. Even if he does nothing, it's going to go away by a miracle.
Then tell us how it will go away. Biden has a lot to say about Trump's failures, but just like Trump, he has no solutions to offer. Both men are just playing to the galleries. Let me give you another example. Earlier this week, we told you how Donald Trump was trying to appease the Hispanic vote bank. He was bragging about a non-existent award that he apparently received from Cuban Americans. How he has professed his love for the Latinos on the campaign trail. Joe Biden has taken this appeasement politics to the next level. On his first campaign visit to Florida, Joe Biden tried courting Hispanic voters. He spoke at length about Trump's quote-unquote divisive immigration policies. Then he started his address by playing a Latina hit from 2017, which I'm sure most of you would have heard. You have to watch this.
All right. There you go. Dance a little bit, Joe. Come on.
I'll tell you, my man. I'll tell you what, if I had the talent of any one of these people, I'd be elected president by acclamation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You know, there's a reason why we call the U.S. election a reality show. The president is refuting health experts in public. The presidential hopeful from the Democratic Party is dancing to Despacito. There's no dearth of entertainment in this race to the White House. We'll keep tracking. And with that, we're wrapping up this edition of Gravitas. Thanks very much for watching. We're leaving you, as always, with Gravitas Images.